Matthew 28. This is a passage that a lot of us might be familiar with. It's sometimes called the Great Commission, and it's where we get Jesus' command to go and baptize and teach and remember everything Jesus has taught us. Anyone ever read the last page of a book before the rest of it? That's kind of what we're doing with our gospel reading for today. This is the last page. These are the last few verses of the Gospel of Matthew. And it's interesting to do that with this book, to have read the last page, to know the ending, this Great Commission, and to have that in mind through the rest of it. I read through the whole Gospel of Matthew all in one sitting once, years ago, at a retreat, and that really was an experience. Maybe some of you have done that too, and you might know what I mean. It's a lot to do with any one of these books from the Bible. I was familiar with a lot of the passages at the time, but reading them all the way through in order was something else. Anytime you do that with a book, any book, it's going to be an experience. When you immerse yourself in that narrative, in the stories of these people that you're reading about, and find a central idea along the way, or a thesis even, that gets reinforced and restated again and again. As I read through the book of Matthew, it was like someone was putting a piece of, something here and then there, and polishing and fusing them together as it progressed, and then another something and another something again, until by chapter, I honestly don't know, somewhere in the 20s, it was kind of like a window had formed, a glass that you could see through to what could be. To have heard Jesus preach the Sermon on the Mount, to hear him say, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, those who mourn, the meek, those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, the merciful, the pure in heart, the peacemakers." To hear Jesus tell those who were listening to let themselves shine. To hear Jesus tell the crowds to look beyond the rules to the meaning behind them. And to go a step further. You have heard it said, "You shall not murder." But I say to you, if you are angry with a brother or sister, your sibling, you have heard it said, "An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth." But I say to you, turn the other cheek and pray for your enemies. Store up treasures not on earth, but in heaven. No one can serve two masters. Love your neighbor as yourself. Do not judge. To hear all of that, and then to watch Jesus go on and make that real, actually live that out, to continue to teach, to look for and see those separated from community by something, and then heal that something. Leprosy, fevers, sicknesses, demons, going and eating with Matthew, the tax collector labeled a sinner by society, restoring him to a community in that way too. And you start to catch on, to understand this world and how it could be healed, whole, restored, fed, authentic. Each and every person shining brightly and living their best life. Like seeing through that window to the world of what's possible because of Jesus. At the same time, however, something else was happening too. As I kept reading, that window also reflected back like a mirror of what is as well. A world not really going to those margins, but keeping with the status quo. Not really changing for the better, but just allowing what is and who is most powerful to be most powerful and who is not powerful, has no power to be powerless, because that's the way it is. And then you hear the woes to the unrepentant cities, and warnings to those who do not bear good fruit. And then there is Jesus feeding thousands of people and restoring those cast out by their circumstances to their community, talking about forgiveness 77 times. And it was hard to keep going because I knew what was coming. I was well versed in that last verse. Go and do. Go and make this real. You've read it, you've seen it, and it is good. But it is not where we are. I kept reading, and I got conviction after conviction, challenge after challenge, hope after hope. Is my house built on a rock or sand? We could make a difference, even just one person at a time. Whoever has helped the least of these has helped me. And the transfiguration, you see how powerful this is, and you get regrounded almost in the identity of who Jesus is. God's Son. Listen to him. And I knew I was going to get to these last verses and be commissioned to go and continue. And I wanted to, because this is an amazing hope to work for. I do want that world to be real. But I also became overwhelmed because that reflection was a lot to overcome, to get through to that other side. And then I got there, to the trial, crucifixion, and the resurrection. I experienced Easter in a way I hadn't quite before. And I journeyed with the disciples to meet Jesus on this mountaintop one more time. And then Jesus spoke. All authority on heaven and earth has been given to me, to Jesus. Not to me, myself, but to Jesus. And the weight I was expecting to feel at the end wasn't there, because that responsibility, that authority, wasn't being carried by me. It was being carried by Jesus. The commission wasn't a burden anymore, an impossible task to pass or more likely fail. It was just that, a commission to keep going, to continue. And it wasn't mine alone to carry, because looking around that mountaintop, there were the rest of the disciples. And through them, all the people they taught, and the people those people taught, and so on, and so on, and so on. And there was Jesus, standing there with each one of them. Because Jesus' last words in this gospel aren't go and do. They are, I am with you always, to the end of the age. The commission is there, and we are called to carry on and carry it out, to teach, to continue to share God's world and hope, the world Jesus was bringing into realization. Jesus' words do not give an excuse from the work that we are called to do. Rather, they hold a promise that we're not alone in working. May we know the weight and importance of the work, but may we also know the grace of Jesus' presence with us in that work. May we also look around and see that we are surrounded by all who work with us and supported by all who came before us, all the way back to the disciples on the mountain that day. And then may we look ahead and catch a vision from the other side of that glass and keep going, knowing that Christ is with us always, and we can carry on to the end of the age. Amen.